welcome to part 3 of our 2023 vacation. In part 1 we were fossil hunting in central Florida, part 2 we were herping in the Everglades, and for this one we're going to be looking for exotic lizards. Florida has more exotic species than any other region in the entire world, so what better place to start looking for them than in extreme South Florida and the Florida Keys. Well-known hotspot of invasive lizards, and also invasive snakes for that matter. I have to admit, I love the ability to find species from all around the world, barely having to leave home. But no video on Florida lizards would be complete without showing you a native alligator. And of course, the iconic Native American crocodile.
He's got his eyes closed. Oh.
Unfortunately for this trip, one of my target species I was unable to find, and these pictures are actually from 2015, which is the last time I actually found them. And while we're here, let's talk about this cool little guy. This is a yellow stingray, and they have a unique ability to be able to change colors and match their background. So the fact that they are venomous and can change colors, in my book, makes them honorary reptiles, and they're getting included in this herping video. So here's our first invasive species. These are Peter's Ragama, and they're actually from Western Africa. They got established in Florida somewhere around the mid-1970s, and it's at the point now where they're so well established that the state has basically given up on trapping or removing them. They've spread up and down the East Coast, basically, and also pretty much from Central Florida down in localized pockets, not covering the entire state like the brown anoles, but in localized pockets. But those pockets are large populations. These lizards will display both, these lizards display both sexual dimorphism and sexual dichromatism. So the males are much larger, and they will have red or orange heads along with black and orange tails. And the females and non-breeding males, non-dominant males, will be more of a gray color. The juveniles have a neat I guess it would be a greenish pattern to their head that makes them pretty cool looking too. And as far as invasives go, these males never cease to impress. Look at this guy climbing up the tree. Absolutely beautiful lizard. They're just truly fascinating in my opinion. And like I said, I don't have to fly all the way to Africa to find them. On the negative side, they do outfeed and also eat some native species. They feed on all basically native species, but they also feed on small snakes, small lizards, even their own young. But really, their primary diet is going to be insects, and there are some insects, certain butterflies and such, that are highly threatened by this species. Well, aside from Burmese pythons, I don't think any other exotic species in Florida gets as much publicity and hype as these iguanas. We actually have 3 species of iguana in Florida that are actually established even. The most common being the green iguana, but we also have black iguana and the Mexican spiny-tail iguana. Those last 2 are actually in a different genus than the green iguana, which is iguana. Pretty easy to remember. So I used to think I could tell all of them apart, but while editing this video, I realized I really don't know them as well as I thought. As such, I'm kind of lumping them all together here. I think almost all of these are going to be green iguanas. There's a couple question marks in there, but maybe they're all greens. I'm not positive. But they're peaceful diurnal dragon lizards. In nature, they're not strictly vegetarians. They do feed primarily on plants, which definitely makes people with gardens and crops particularly angry. I'm not going to go into all the negatives here. The media does a nonstop barrage of that. Anyway, they're native to Central and South America, and they've been here since about the 60s. The state continues their removal efforts, but clearly they're pretty unsuccessful up until now. Check out how cool this guy looks in the orange coloration. sitting up on top of a Connex box. And pretty awesome. They really are like little dragons. The publicity on these has spread all around the world. Even when I was in Singapore, I heard about iguanas and Burmese pythons in Florida. So that media just, it gets out there. Everybody hears it.
No idea of the species, but here's a crab up in a tree, about 8 foot up. I can just barely reach to get the camera there. Florida Keys. It's got crab in a tree and pink claws. And you probably can't hear me over all that wind.
So this is a northern curlytail lizard, native to the Bahamas. They've been in Florida since about the 1950s, mostly in central Florida on the coast. So when I found this, I thought I knew what kind of anole it was, and after doing more research, I came to realize there's more lookalikes in the area that I wasn't aware of. So in South Florida, we have 4 primary green anoles: the Cuban anole, the night anole, the native green anole, as well as the Jamaican giant green anole. And this is likely either a Cuban green or a native green anole. They do, in some areas, including this area, hybridize, but I can't tell exactly which one this is. So this is one of my favorite anoles, maybe favorite invasive lizards in Florida. Um, but this is a night anole, also known as the Cuban night anole, which might indicate where they come from. They're native to Cuba. In Cuba, they're actually called chupacote, which my Spanish is a little rusty, but I'm pretty sure that translates to coconut sucker. Their size and coloration kind of keep them on my favorites list. They are one of the biggest anoles, if not the biggest anole, and can grow up to about 20 inches long. They feed on primarily invertebrates, but will also eat snails and fruit. They're also known to take smaller reptiles, things they can fit in their mouth, but that's occasionally. And they do have an impressive threat display and can also inflict a pretty good bite compared to other anoles anyway. So speaking of favorite invasive lizards, this takes second place for me, only following the various chameleon species in Florida. This is a giant Madagascar De Gecko, and they are absolutely stunning. Clearly, they're native to Madagascar. They can grow up to 10 or 11 inches long, but all the individuals we found were not quite that large. They'll feed primarily on invertebrates. They're also known to lick fruit and nectar, and they'll occasionally eat small vertebrates. They have no eyelids, so if you're ever observing them, watch for their eye licking behavior that keeps their eyes clean and clear so they can continue to hunt their prey. This was my first time actually finding them after multiple attempts, and I used open source intelligence to make informed guesses this time. I even made sure my hotel was close to them because they were my main target for this phase of our vacation. And it absolutely paid off. I'm not sure how many individuals we found, probably around 5 or 6, maybe more. I'm not entirely sure, but it definitely paid off. Some of the other species we were looking for we didn't quite find, such as the various chameleon species, and I was hoping to find at least one basilisk, which usually isn't a problem, but kind of struck out on this trip. The chameleons, we put effort in, and it just didn't pay off. But absolutely fantastic finally finding these day geckos. They're just absolutely beautiful. I mean, look at this guy climbing down the branch right now. So these are some pretty short clips of giant amoeba. We saw multiple, but they're shy and retreat to cover pretty quickly. They're native to Central and South America. They get about 20 inches long, give or take. The males are brighter. They have a much deeper bright green color than the females that are a little more dull. And like lizards in general, they feed on all the things lizards normally would, especially invertebrates and, and basically anything small enough they can fit in their mouth. These are pretty big lizards, and they're really colorful. Look at this tail right here. It's got that blue coloration as it goes into the deeper green on the back. Pretty awesome, but unfortunately didn't get very good video of them. Alright, this guy doesn't really fit in here, but this is a black racer. And it doesn't fit because, one, it's a snake, and two, it's native. But I really didn't have another video to put him in, and we found him at the same time we were looking at these amoebas. This is in range for the Everglades black racer, which is a subspecies of the southern black racer. That said, the differences between the two are so subtle that I don't know if they both coexist in this area or not. So I'm just going to call this a black racer for now, with, in my head, I'm going to call it an Everglades racer.
Awesome. So what species is he?
Hemidactylus species.
Hemidactylus.
Yeah, gets transported with wood all around the world.
Really?
If you'd like to see more reptiles from the area in the Everglades, make sure you check out this video, which includes the invasive Burmese python you're looking at right here, just trying to cash in on that hype. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Thanks.